So are you guys all ready to start?
Yep.
All right. Hey, well, welcome to MCJA's Cheer Chat. This is our second Cheer Chat of the year, so welcome everyone. And before we get started, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cindy Tizo, and I am the MCJA past president. On the phone with, or on the call, or on the presentation, that will, the other presenters are Candy Cox, who is our MHSAA liaison and executive board member, and then Julie Brown, who is our current president of MCJA. So those are the three of us who are going to be doing the presentation today. I do want to thank everybody who sent in any kind of questions or any concerns that they had. This is an accumulation of all kinds of emails and updates from MHSAA that we received since the beginning of competitive cheer season, or actually since our last cheer chat, which was in December. So with that said, I do want to remind you that there is an update on MHSAA that was from December the 1st, and you should be watching for another update to come this week. We do believe that it's going to be published sometime this week. Some of the information that we have may apply to that. But we're going to start. So here we go. Member good standing. This is Candy.
Hi. I talked with Faye at MHSAA, and member in good standing does not come into tournament consideration for competitive cheer. Progressively by sport, since 2005-06, all officials were required to be members in good standing of an approved official association in order to receive tournament assignments. In baseball, girls basketball, boys basketball, football, boy and girls soccer, softball, volleyball, and wrestling. This requirement, in addition to the three historical qualifications observed by the MHSAA, will qualify for tournament. Historically, the MHSAA has required rules meeting attendance in the sport, accumulating 16 or more varsity ratings in the sport, and recording a rating of 3 point or better considered for tournament invitations. Technically, some associations do track their status based on these guidelines, even though it is not required for competitive cheer. And what we are currently doing is, when I receive memberships that are current, I am putting those into MHSAA at our official site. So there may be some that are missing, but I'm trying to get everybody added. We didn't do that in the past because it is not required, and it's still required.
Okay. If everybody can mute their computers so that we don't have all the background noise, that would be wonderful. Candy, do you have more?
That is all.
Okay. Social media is next, and Julie is going to talk to us about that.
Okay, so we have always kind of driven it home saying, you know, talking about bias and using social media, like don't be real careful not to like someone's post of a team because it might look biased, saying good job online, things like that. But one of the things that's really come up recently is that particularly on the Facebook page of Coaches Helping Coaches, they might be asking for points or for difficulty points, explanations, or just answers to questions. And even though they may be coming directly from the manual, you just want to stay away from that kind of thing. From comments, even if they are factual, what happens sometimes is that what the coach has asked is not necessarily what you're answering, or, you know, is not factual.
So just stay away from social media. Okay. The deduction chart, and Candy's going to talk to us about the deduction chart. There were some questions that came up regarding this?
So if you look in your manual at page 16 and 17, one of the specific questions was asked about the aerial. And if you look on page 17, and it's the fourth box down, it says 0.9 to 1 point deduction, a major error. If the aerial skill, hand, arm, or knee touch before feet. And then if you look on page 16, it's also in the fourth paragraph down under 0.9 to 1 point deductions. A hand touches the mat when performing an aerial skill. Well, the difference is it doesn't say arm or knee or feet. And then if you read on, the hands, arms touch the mat before feet or legs on a standing back tuck. An aerial skill might look like a butterfly instead of the torso being inverted properly. And so I think it's just whatever the problem was, somebody was looking at one and saying, like on page 17, the exact same words weren't on page 16, but we were trying to give you guidelines, and we can't get everything in the book, so I think I talked to the person that was having the difficulty, and I think we got it straightened out. But if anybody has any questions, Julie or I will try to help you.
Okay, entering the mat. This year, for the first time, I mean, last year we started to see people gathering at the back corner of the mat and entering the mat. And now this year we're seeing teams enter from either side of the mat, sometimes from one side or the other, or sometimes they're splitting the team and coming in from both sides. However, on page 13 of your book, it says the announcer will request the team to approach the competition area and take its position behind the mat. So the manual is very specific that teams have to enter behind the mat. And this is because it's a standard entrance for all teams, and that will allow consistency and equality in judging each team. So that's why we have them all come in from the back of the mat. However, if you are at a competition that has limited space, sometimes the competition director would say, we're going to enter from the right, they're going to exit from the left, and make it one big loop. If this is the case, then it would be okay to do it that way, because all of the teams would be entering the mat the same way and exiting the same way. So the rule of thumb is to follow the manual, and that they are to take a position behind the mat. So hopefully that will clarify it, and we need to make sure that we let the coaches know that this is what has to happen. If they don't enter this way, it would be a mat violation. In round one, we're seeing more and more people on the floor. This question was posed by an official. An athlete is in a plank or a push-up position. Is it legal? Yes, it is legal to be in that plank or push-up position. However, it is not legal to do a push-up to get into the push-up position. So if they actually do a push-up in round one, that would be a penalty. So just some other things that aren't allowed that we all know, but just to reiterate, perform stunts, tumbling, heel stretches, splits, and an actual push-up in round one would be illegal. Okay. Round two. And if you do have questions throughout, you can, there should be a text box at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you can certainly text in a message anytime. We do have Stacy Smith, who is monitoring those, and will ask those questions either at the end or as we go through. Okay. So the precision drill. As you know, every year when there's a new precision drill, we find people doing things differently, and this is pretty common throughout the state. It's count 3, where it says to step out to a lunge position with the right foot facing forward and the left foot perpendicular. you need to go to count 4 where it says bring right foot back to left, which then means that in count 3, the right foot is the one that should be lunged outward. And that is the way that it is also in the precision drill that is on the MHSAA website. So we're seeing some teams that are moving their left foot and moving forward. So that would be an incorrect performance of that precision drill. So this, once again, is another question and an issue that we've been seeing this year. And this is, excuse me, round 2 skills. This is going to be addressed by Julie.
Hi, Cindy. This is Stacy. Julie
Hello.
went offline, and she's unable to get back on.
Okay.
So I'm having her try to call in.
Okay. If you'd like, I can proceed. We've talked about this one. Or Candy, do you want to talk about this one?
Okay. Round 2, we're just talking about on page 22, every team member must perform an identical skill from start to finish in unison. And unison refers to the directions of the skills in the arm, leg, and body positions. So it needs to look like one person doing the skill. Do you want to add anything, Cindy?
Yes. So what we want to see is we want it to be in unison, but what would happen if it's in unison means that they're doing their back walkover and their feet are flexed or their knees are bent? Some coaches might say, yep, it was done in unison, it looked like one person, I want my 10. However, they do need to, the panel people are deducting for all of those flexed feet, all the bent knees. So even though it is in unison, we need to make sure that the appropriate deductions are taken for execution. Okay. Round 2 skills. You have a back tuck that lands on the hands and knees, and this would be an 8-point penalty. It's number 23 on the penalty sheet, since the skill was not performed as described in the manual. Okay, the standing back tuck in the manual says it begins in a half squat position. Arm positions are optional. Then it talks about the lift and the the rotation, and then it says the skill ends when both feet are in contact with the cheering surface, and in this case it's the knees. So I know that Julie was going to talk about that safety is providing that, or is giving that, assessing that 8-point penalty, but the panel also needs to take execution points off for that. So commonly panel thinks that, oh, safety took care of that, so we don't have to. They would still have to deduct, panel would still have to deduct those execution points for that tuck that landed on the hands and the knees. Candy, do you have anything more?
That's correct. We just so coaches are aware and officials that they think that we may be double dipping, but you are taking the execution of points off as well as the penalty.
Okay. This came up also, round 2 skill. The handstand forward roll must be performed parallel to the judges in round 2. That doesn't have it in the description. It shows it in the photo that's in the round 2 skills. However, it doesn't have it in the description. So the words don't say that the handstand forward roll must be performed parallel to the judges. However, if you go on to page 79 in the glossary of terms, it specifically does say that the skill must be performed parallel to the judges. So what you might want to do is you might want to identify page 79 next to your handstand forward roll in your manual so that you can refer to it. If a coach has, if they don't do it correctly, then you can refer them back to the glossary of terms. So on page 29 is your handstand forward roll. I would just make a little note that further clarification is in the glossary of terms on page 79, so that you can quickly turn to it if you have to talk to a coach regarding that. Okay, this is something new, and I'm going to let Candy speak on this because she has, as you know, Candy's our liaison, and she talks pretty much every week, if not more frequently, with Kathy at MCJA. So I'm going to let her speak on this particular.
Before we move on,
Okay.
We had a question. Is it okay if I do it now, or would you prefer to wait until the end?
Oh, you can do it now.
Okay, it says, I had a team do a uniform hop straight jump between skills 3 and 4 in round 2 as part of a choreography move. Would this be considered a skill and therefore a penalty in round 2?
So if I'm understanding, they did the 10 count and they added a hop between one of the between like 3 and 4. Is that what you said?
I think instead of the precision drills, she's addressing the skills themselves, if I'm understanding this question correctly. And perhaps, Jessica, you could help us with this. Do you mean the skills themselves, or do you mean the precision drill? And what I think she is asking is between doing skill number 3 and doing skill number 4, the team did an in unison hop or straight jump in between. Would this be considered a skill? Just a hop move, and therefore is it a penalty? Or can they hop in round 2 as a motion? Cindy?
That's a good question.
Is it?
I would say if it's just a hop, then probably not. But if it's a jump, like they're all just jumping straight up, are they hopping to move to a new spot? And they're just everybody's just hopping?
This is Jessica. They did it would be considered an attempt of a jump. It was a straight jump. It was very pretty, and they left the ground a good, I'd say, foot or so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, were they moving in any position? Like, were they moving from one position to another, or are they just jumping up?
Just up. They did a pretty high V. It was nice, but to me it looked like a jump.
Okay, then that would be your judgment call that they did a straight jump, and they can't add a skill. Because that's not even one of the skills that they can choose to do. So it could be either an extra skill or illegal skill was performed, because that's straight. If you're calling it a straight jump, that would be an illegal skill, which would be a 22-point penalty, and it would be under number 26. So if you felt it looked like a jump, then that's what you're calling it. Kind of like the difference between a pop and a toss and a sweep. So if it's a hop or a jump. So if they got that high and you're calling it a jump, then that's what it would be. Did I answer the question?
Yep.
All right. Okay. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk about points for a quick drop toss down from a stunt. Candy.
Okay, we talked about this. We're seeing a lot of this on description sheets. It may be listed as a college drop, a pop down drop, a toss down. Talk to Kathy. She really doesn't want to encourage the use of college drop, which is what this is an extension. A person in an extension is either pop down, toss down from an extension. They're caught at the waist with the Flyer's hands, and it is 4 points. And there will be a clarification coming out about this.
So the specific verbiage of what it's going to be called, whether it's a quick drop or a toss down, will be in the updates then, is that correct?
That is correct.
And 4 points are going to be given.
Correct.
Okay. I think I have a video of it, so if you can tell me after you watch the video if this is correct. Candy?
That is correct.
Okay. Even though this is being done by a college team, it's not called a college drop.
Correct.
Okay. Is Julie back with us yet?
Julie is
No?
on by phone, but she's unable to speak. She can
Okay.
hear us, but
All
she
right.
cannot lend her.
Well, good thing we had a walkthrough of these slides. All right. Well, Candy, do you want to talk about this, or do you want me to do it?
Okay, we talked about this, so help me out if I forget something. A show and go includes both lifting and lowering action as well as feet together in a QP position. Therefore, terms sponge or retake should not be used in the round description sheet. The show and go, if it includes both lifting and lowering action as well as the feet together in a QP position, is worth 7 points. Players in the show and go, such as a kick, would receive an additional 4 points. And then see page 35 at the bottom.
That is correct. Apparently, coaches in their round description sheets have been trying to give themselves additional points for a sponge or a retake. However, the lifting and lowering action of the show and go is only 7 points. Okay, mountain climber.
Okay, this is on page 80. A mountain climber flare is where a flyer begins with 1 foot on the cheering surface and climbs. Bases with hand-to-foot contact, switching weight from base to base, ending in an extension. This receives 4 points if it starts on the ground and ends in an extension. No points are received if it ends at an elevator level stunt. And no points if it begins in a sponge. We're having people start like in a sponge and then continue to climb and say that they're getting their mountain climber. But remember, the key thing is the flyer begins with 1 foot on the cheering surface.
Okay. Braced OLEs.
Braced OLEs do not receive choreography points. However, if the OLE goes up and is stable before bracing, it does receive the OLE choreography points. I don't know, I think this is pretty simple, but I think we have a video, correct?
This is of a brace, and this is what coaches are trying to give themselves OLE choreography bonus for. So this is a braced, this would not receive.
Can I speak one thing to this also?
Sure, absolutely.
In this video, if the flyer were to release the bracer on her right side after she reached the peak, it would still not receive OLE choreography bonus. So at that point right there, if she released, it would still not receive OLE bonus. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's what Julie was going to speak to for that video.
Okay. We did have a video for, I'm not sure I want to let go of the screen though, Stacy, so maybe we'll just move on.
No problem.
We had a different video on YouTube and it wouldn't download, so I think before we destroy the whole PowerPoint, I think we'll just skip that one. Oh wait, okay, OLEs. Candy, do you want to speak on this one too?
Okay, 14 points for any one-legged extension, and an additional 4 points for below waist flares, And then an additional 8 points for above the waist flare. An example would be an extended heel stretch.
And unfortunately, we still need to talk about this because it's still being, on the choreography sheet, it's still being done incorrectly by coaches and officials. Rotating stunts, this was another question that was posed by one of the membership.
4 points if rotating the stunt at least 180 degrees or 360 degrees. And it has to be the rotation of the stunt.
So it's bases moving the stunt. Candy, do you want to talk about this one?
35 under flares, 8 difficulty points, 360-degree entrance to a stunt, elevator level or higher. These also count as full twist for choreography. And I think there's just been maybe some misunderstanding. And so if you reference page 35 in the manual, it gives a good description.
And that's that center column on page 38, or 35, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's where the discrepancy came in. Because on page 35, under 4 difficulty points, speaks of rotating a stunt, which we just talked about in the slide before, or a 360-degree to a sponge or below shoulder level transition or stunt. So if the flyer goes up in a 360, it's an 8-point difficulty. If they're coming down, it's a 4-point difficulty. Andy, that's correct, yes? Okay. This one is something that's new this year, and it is part of the 12-1 updates from MHSAA. A flyer is in a double-based elevator, and it's kind of confusing the way that it's written. However, a flyer is in a double-based elevator with 2 bracers, and then she moves 1 foot. This is the flyer that's going to be doing the suspended roll. Moves 1 foot to another flyer. So you have 3 elevators, okay? So the foot goes into another elevator at the bracer. Then she does a suspended roll with one of the flyers holding her foot and the other 2 holding hands, so they have the hand-to-hand contact. Now this is illegal. So whether it's another bracer, be it in a shoulder sit or an elevator, because the rule says that the suspended rolls must have at least 2 bases. And this is on page 64. So we do have a video of that, so let me show you the video. So here you have 1, 2, 3. There are your 3 base bracers. And here we go. Up she goes and over she goes, and that is illegal because this person right here had her foot as she went over, and only one of the bases had it. So we'll watch that one more time. Base, and there you go. So this video was sent to MHSAA, and that's why the ruling came through. Stacy, we have 2 questions. We might as well address those now.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, the first question states, I heard you say that it is illegal to perform a push-up in round 1. What page in the manual is this referenced on?
Because a push-up is considered a skill. Candy, go ahead.
I'm looking for the page.
Sorry, that's me.
Round 1, page 18, and it is on the 5th paragraph under round 1, required round. To further clarify, stunts, tumbling, heel stretches, splits, and push-ups are prohibited, as well as all skills listed on page 34 and 35.
Okay, fantastic. And the next question is, in the middle school section, 1 foot show and go with lib flare, 15 points. How is that match with a show and go with flare 7 plus 4, 11?
Say that one more time.
In the middle school section, it states a 1 foot show and go with lib flare, 15 points. And that does not match with the show and go with flare 7 plus 4 equaling 11 points.
Okay, they're showing, I see on page 74 it says show and go 7. Then it says 1 foot show and go with Liberty Flare 15. A show and go includes both lifting and lowering actions as well as feet being together in a QP position. Therefore, coaches should not use the term sponge or retake.
Hey, Candy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm back. I'm sorry, I couldn't get back on, and so I had to log on my iPad, so I apologize to everyone, especially you two, for having to fly by the seat of your pants.
No problem.
They're referring to, I believe, on page 77, it says a 1-footed show and go with a Liberty Flare is 15 points. This is in the middle school section. It's 15 points.
74.
Well, this
also.
one's on page 77 because it's in the middle school section. Under like stunts above shoulder level and stuff. It's 15 points because you have 4 points for the 1 foot.
Right.
7 points for the show and go. And
then
4 points for the Liberty Flare.
Okay.
So that's different than what it says in the, so it's giving the middle school kind of an idea. It's different than what it says in the high school portion. The high school portion just has the regular show and go with a flare, which would be just the 7 and the 4.
But it also says on page 35 that a 1-footed show and go with an above the waist level flare is 15. So I think that's where the discrepancy is coming in, because we always say that libs are only a below the waist flare.
But that's, but you just said it said that it was an above the waist flare, right?
It's 15 with an above the waist flare on page 35.
So they're giving it 8 points because it's an above the waist flare.
Correct.
Okay, that is something that people need to pay attention to probably then, because I don't know that that's been being done.
Julie, do you think the high school one should be 19?
Where's the wording of the high school one? It's on what page?
35.
35.
35 is where I'm at. And
It is highlighted.
4 plus 7 plus 8?
a 1-footed show and go with above the waist flare. Oh, 1-footed show and go with above the waist flare is 11 points. I would venture to say that that's a typo.
Yeah,
You want me
because
to
middle
get
school.
on that?
Yeah, we need clarification on that, Candy, because the middle school one is actually correct in that it should be the 4 for the 1-footed, the 7 for the show and go, and then I thought for a show and go, the above the waist flare didn't matter, and that would be another 4 points. But they are showing the one-footed show and go with an above the waist flare as 15. Let's get some clarification on that, Candy.
All right, we'll do.
Because the limb
question.
isn't a below waist level flare. For high school.
Right, but that, I didn't think you got 8 points in a show and go for an above the waist flare.
Oh, correct. Set just for,
Only an extension.
correct. But I think the question was, if I'm reading the question correctly, it's stating in high school different than what it states in middle school.
Right. So I think it's a typo. Or
I'll
you know,
get some-
it just got transferred incorrectly.
So Candy, you're going to get clarification on that, yes?
Yes.
Perfect. Stacy, do we have any other questions?
That's all for now.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're going to move on to middle school.
Oh.
And I know,
I apologize. There's one more.
okay.
Okay. When entering, the team steps on one step, then yells at a team, "Go team." They then walk to position and call set. Would you consider the go team done altogether as page 12's first word to start timing?
They have 1 foot on the mat?
Yes. As a team, the team puts, say, their right foot on the mat, and they all yell, "Go team," then walk to their positions, call set, and begin their cheer. And she's asking, would you consider the go team with 1 foot on the mat as the first word to start timing?
Yes. And why do they do that? I would tell the coach not to do that because that's going to eat up a lot of her time.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
don't know why they would do that. That's going to start their time.
But that is
an
correct. Because
organized
they're on the mat.
thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
last question at this time.
Okay. All right, middle school. This question was posed back at the beginning of the season, and this is a clarification from MHSAA. So many of these you're going to see that we lifted them directly from the MHSAA website. So pendulums. A middle school team performs a pendulum, half or full, and has a front or back spotter, depending upon which direction they're going. The additional spotter becomes the 5th spotter. Okay, so the pendulum requires 4 catchers. So that spotter then becomes the 5th catcher, and that shouldn't say spotter, it should be the 5th catcher. And this spotter should be to the side and becomes a catcher. There you go. And not directly behind or in front of the flyer, because you don't want them to be hitting their heads. Because if you have somebody directly behind or if you have somebody directly in front, your chances of them hitting their heads is greater. So the interpretation by MHSAA is that that spotter becomes a 5th catcher and should be to the side. This has been an issue, and I don't know why, but second cheer requires a jump. So the middle school or junior high team performs vocals and arm motions prior to performing their first jump. This would be legal because the required jump must be the first skill, not the first thing, but the first skill that a team does. So you really don't need to have it to be your first skill, your first item in your cheer. You can do motions, you can do formation changes, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't do a skill before that first jump. So here's another scenario. A middle school junior high team performs a kick, then the required jump in unison. This would be illegal because the required jump must be the first skill performed, and they did a kick because I'm sure they're going to be giving themselves difficulty points for the kick. All right, on page 76, that little chart that's in the middle of the page that says illegal flares at the extension level, and then it says except for, and then this, and you need a spotter, and it goes through different skills that need in what they require. But please know that at the extension level, you cannot rotate, you cannot move, you cannot do a toe touch cradle, you can't do a twist cradle, you can't do any kind of flare except a straight down cradle from an extension level. And please do not make the wrong call when they do everything at the elevator level, because they can twist, they can move, they can rotate, they can twist cradle, they can toe touch cradle, they can do pretty much any kind of flare at the elevator level at the middle school. But once it's up in the air, they cannot do any kind of flare. Flares at the extension level, this is the other part of that box, that they are allowing middle schools to do an extension. So when they do an extension, it says that they have to have a spotter in the front and the back. And so the spotter must be in the same position as the back spotter, touch, watch, and away. And what we're seeing a lot of is that the front spotters are putting their hands on the foot or on the toes of the flyer. We're seeing that they're not looking at the flyer. So their spotting position is mandated at the middle school level, that the spotter is in the same position, touch, watch, and away, and at the front. Coaches are also becoming confused because they're doing a lib or they're doing a hitch, and it's at the extension level, and the rule says that it has to be braced. So coaches are now thinking, because it's braced, that they don't need that front spotter, but they do. So those poor middle school coaches are confused, and they are not following the rule book because they're reading it differently. But if they do an extension that's braced with a lib, they need the 2 bracers, and they also need the front spotter. Okay, a middle school junior high team performs a double braced hitch with one of the bracers at the shoulder sit level. And this is legal, and I do have a photo of it on the next slide, so just bear with me. However, in the middle school junior high, a back spotter is needed for the shoulder sit. So they are allowing the shoulder sit to brace, and usually you don't need a spotter on a shoulder sit. However, this is one of the clarifications that is in the December 1st update, that you have to have a spotter on a shoulder sit if it is bracing that hitch. So this is what it looks like. And you can see, you can't really see, you have to look at feet because she's hidden. So right there you see some feet that are part of the spotter. She also has her hands there. So this would be okay at the junior high level as long as you have that spotter on that shoulder sit. Okay. Oh, there you go. Do we have any questions? Yes?
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
For the middle school, can they do like that same picture was, but can they have another side, or does the half press have to be facing the hitch? Like, can she be the center and have the other side hitched out to another shoulder sit?
Okay, so on this photo, you're asking, can this person have another hitch?
Nope, the other side. So can the elevator have a hold of another girl in another hitch out to the other way?
Like a large pyramid.
So this one is facing forward with a hitch on like another elevator.
Onto another shoulder set. So like they're mirrored.
You probably could.
Okay.
They would have to have another bracer on the other side of that then. So they would have to have enough girls for that to have another bracer on the other side, because middle school has to have 2 bracers.
Yes.
Well, she's saying that this one is going to be staying at the elevator level and just hitching on another shoulder sit over here. So.
Yeah, number-wise, I don't think there would be enough girls to make 16.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood it then. I didn't hear it that way, Cindy. I thought she was asking if that shoulder stand, or I'm sorry, I thought she was asking if that elevator could be a bracer for another lib on the other side.
Oh, is that what the question was?
Yes, but now that I do the numbers, I don't think that
you won't have enough.
possible.
Yeah, you won't.
Yeah, I won't have enough girls.
Yep, because this right here takes 5.
Right.
Yep.
And then they have that girl at the back spotter.
Yep. So this would be, yep. Nope.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks.
You're welcome.
We do have
Any other questions?
Yep, we
Sure.
have one more question that came in, and they're asking to just clarify for middle school the braced versus unbraced, maybe just restating what is legal and what is not, according to the chart on page 76. There's a box and it says, above it says illegal stunts. The following skills are illegal at junior high, middle school level.
Okay.
And below it, there's a word that states except mountain climber entrance, QP, and double braced OLE with Liberty, OLE hitch, or TikTok. And there is some interpretation of that that they're asking about, but I know it states further in that chart where it says other. But if you could just go over that quickly, they're asking for clarity.
Sure. Let's start at the right and work our way back. So, illegal stunts, other, suspended rolls, inverted exits or entrances, unbraced or single braced one-leg extensions. Okay, so if that hitch in this picture didn't have this particular person here and she was in a lib position, that would be illegal because it specifically says that your one-legged Liberty needs, it has to be double braced. Okay, so everybody understands that one, I hope. So tosses, you can't do any tosses, basket tosses or anything with or without a flare. So then that below gets a little murky because we're saying that if it's a braced pyramid, that you can do a brace released tic-tac as it's described on page 64. So you have 2 bracers and the flyer can then release to do a tic-tac. Okay? However, they can't do a suspended roll because we already said that they couldn't do it in the far right column. So then if you go to the far left column, flares at the extension level, we already talked about no toe touch, no twist, no single base, no single armed, no moving a stunt, rotating a stunt, or transitioning from vertical to horizontal, which would be a flat back or 360, 360s. So these are all at the extension level. So if they do them from elevators, they're fine, but not at the extension level. Except when they do a mountain climber as an entrance, because we see people do mountain climbers up and down. So at the middle school, they can do a mountain climber entrance to a extension, okay? Which means you have to have the front and the back spotter there. So you're allowed to do mountain climbing entrance to a CUPE or to an extension. Those are the only two that you can do, the only two stunts at the extended level, the straight up extension or a CUPE that you can do at the extension level. Okay? But then you can do one-legged stunts if it's double braced. So you can do a liberty or a hitch as a double brace. So we have a photo of the hitch here, but you can do a liberty, which is double braced. So hopefully that answers your question.
I think
Because
it
anytime you
does.
don't have that double brace.
And we have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cindy, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
Six judges tried to explain that to a coach this weekend, and she just wasn't understanding. She was interpreting that except in that first box as except that she could do those 3 things. So maybe in the next manual the wording can just be different, or maybe in parentheses or something.
Sure.
Because at the
I
top
think it's important.
she got away with it. She said the judges said it was legal. So I just want the judges to be on the same page. It's not
Sure.
legal, unbraced.
No,
Thank
it
you.
is
Right.
not legal. So
Yeah,
Candy,
I
do
think
you
it's
have that
important to, oops, sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
note? I just want to make sure, Candy, do you have that note? I hope.
She
Okay.
might be muted. I think that also we need to just keep in mind what the topic or what the title for that section is. Don't forget the title for that section is illegal stunts. The following skills are illegal at junior high. So this is the exception to it being, it would be illegal except we can do this one as long as it's braced. I think that's what that coach or if those officials did explain it to that coach that way, that's what they were missing, is they forgot what the heading of their section was. Illegal stunts. These are all illegal. The exception would be if you brace it with 2 bracers, then it would be legal. So I think that's really important to point out.
This is Candy. What did you want me to note?
That in that first column, the first and second column when it says exceptions, that maybe it should be something different in parentheses or something to really make it clear that those are exceptions, like separate them from the legal stunts. Yeah?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have 2 more. At the end of a team's cheer, I've seen many fans and non-performers yell out the ending words of the cheer without a call and response, like when we say let's go, you say fight. Is this illegal? Here's the example. We are awesome. We are a #1 team, and everyone yells, a #1 team. Is that illegal or legal?
Well, if the fans are doing it, it doesn't really matter what the fans do because we're not judging the fans. I mean, the coach, if she's choreographed it and all the fans know their last words and they yell them, there's really nothing that you can do. I mean, that's not illegal.
And
if the kids on the bench are doing it, it could be they have something in there that, it's just like we are blue or we are white or we're #1. I see that frequently, and I don't think that that's really a penalty because, it's just the end of their cheer.
Right. I would go even further to say, like I use a rule of thumb, are they saying words that are extremely important, for instance, their mascot, or in this instance, we are a #1 team, their school colors, like Cindy mentioned, or their school name, or are they saying every single word? We want to win this game tonight. That would lead you to believe that they are doing that purposely to up their volume, which is what the intent of the rule is. So if it's just whether they solicit for the response or not, if it's just those really impactful or important words, say at the end or in the center or whatever, I don't think that's the intent of the rule.
We have that too in the middle of the cheer where they don't ask to yell the school name, like they'll spell out BLUE, or they'll spell out their mascot. And it's just that their school knows that that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And sometimes they don't say, yell with us, or it's, help us, or let's go, or whatever. Or we yell blue, you yell white kind of thing. But you have to use your judgment on it. And I would say no, if the fans are yelling everything, even if the coach teaches the fans to cheer and they're yelling through the entire routine, the words, you can't penalize them for it. All we're worried about is the bench kids. And if it's just that last couple words, I would say no.
Right, I agree.
Okay, and one more question. Does a middle school team need a front spot for a show and go?
Well, it doesn't say that they have to, because it is a up and down motion. And particularly if they're going to do some kind of a flare, be it a lib or a kick, the front spotter is going to get kicked out and get injured because she's going to get kicked in the face or she's going to get kneed in the nose. It does not say that they have to, but you are going to somewhat of an extended position. I have not given a penalty for it, but I know that there's been talk about it, and Candy does have a question that she's going to ask Kathy this week about that. So I'm sorry I can't answer that for you right now. I would say no, but just watch for MHSA clarification because that does need to be clarified because it's not written anywhere.
Okay, and one just came in. A coach at a meet I judged at yesterday stated that clarification number 2 under case play is still unclear on what actually constitutes 2.5 high. Some safeties are giving penalties while others are not.
All right. This ruling on number 1 and number 2 of the clarifications from 12.1 is when teams are stepping up onto an elevator before they do the skill. So they're stepping up onto an elevator before they do the suspended roll. Or they're stepping up onto the elevator before they do a twist cradle. And these, the suspended roll obviously is braced, but the step up to a twist cradle is not. MHSAA took a look at those and made those rulings. So it wasn't, they made the rulings and we have to uphold those. So if people are stepping up onto that level, just like that previous, let me go back. Sorry if I'm making anybody dizzy. But right here, this is where this all originated from, is when, say this was your flyer, she was stepping up onto the hands or arms of these two bracers. So this is rule number, this is the first bullet, or this is the third bullet actually, that's in the clarifications. So they don't want that step up motion right there. Let me see if I can stop it. Right there, that step up motion right here, where that flyer has the weight of, or that flyer has the weight of that flyer. That was the interpretation. When asked the question of MHSAA, that was the ruling, and that was why, because they viewed this as a 3 high. So whether you agree with it or not, that's the ruling, and that's what officials have to, that's what we have to rule on. So you'll see the step up, and if these guys aren't here, she can twist cradle into her bases, or this one, obviously, she did a suspended roll. So
Okay. And someone just clarified the previous one about the front and back spotter for the junior high, middle school, that it states on page 77.
That was on the show and go?
Yeah. It says on page 77 for middle school, front and back spotter required at junior high, middle school level. 1 foot show and go with Liberty Flare is under there.
Yep, you are correct.
That somebody stated that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that answers my question too. So show and goes and one-footed show and goes with Liberty Flare all need front and back spotter. Got to read those titles.
And it looks like those are all the questions at this time, unless someone else wants to ask.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for your input in these questions and the clarifications. We continue to receive those, so if you still have more that you have questions about, you can email them to the MCJA website, and those are then sent on to Candy, who then discusses them with Kathy, who then will put them in a update. So once again, watch for those updates on MHSAA. It'll be on the competitive cheer section. When you go on to MHSAA, you choose sport, go to competitive cheer, and it's in the box that's on the right-hand side of the page where it'll say additional clarifications 2016-17. Okay, thank you, Candy. Thank you, Julie. Stacy, thank you for taking on the questions. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Cheer chat.
Yes, thank you.
Cheer chat.
Thank you, Cindy and Candy.
Next cheer.
Julie.
The next cheer chat is February 5th at 6 p.m.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Did you all hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The next cheer chat, February 5th at 6
Somewhat.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Candy. I'm sorry. My son turned off the internet in between. I said, what just happened? I just yelled in my house, what just happened? And then it wouldn't let me log back on because it said I was still in the meeting.
Oh, dear.
And it was still going on. And so then I was able to get on my phone, and I thought, all right, well, they're already by that part, and they're, you know, just doing just fine without me. So anyways, I apologize for leaving you hanging.
And one more thing to all of you.
Yes.
And I think Jill will send out a quick note via the MCJA email and perhaps even put it on Facebook. But we were full, and so I was counting that about 16 to 20 tries at logging on, and we were full, and those people were not allowed to join us. So I'll get the link as quick as possible so that she can email the link, and I'll put it on the website as quick as possible.
Okay, so we'll send that out to the membership then, telling them we apologize, and here's the information.
And I will work for the next one on February 5th to make sure that our number is eligible is higher.
Higher, okay.
Higher. And if it costs money,
awesome.
You know, and if not, great.
That's great that we had so many.
I know, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. All right, well, thanks everybody for your hard work.
Thank
All
you.
right.